Alright, today I'm reviewing Renfield, which is about Count Dracula's assistant Renfield, who is a bug-munching lackey, and how he struggles to get away from the abusive relationship that is working with Count Dracula and fetching him corpses for him to drain of blood. Now right off the bat, you probably have a couple questions. 1, dude, where have you been for the past few months? I don't know, haven't uploaded. 2, why is there a band-aid on your chin? Well, I was eating pizza yesterday and I took a bite into it. It was from Walmart stuffed crust cheese pepperoni. I bit into it and then the cheese slid off and smacked me in the chin. So I actually have burn marks on my chin, which wasn't pleasant. So that's just where the band-aid is. Question 3, what's up with your outfit? It's cool. It's a summer outfit. This is a very summer getup and this hat looks cool. So with those out of the way, let's talk about Renfield. Now, Renfield, what did I like about Renfield? I like that it was short. It's like an hour and a half long. There are so many movies where it's like, oh my goodness, will this never end? And they're so long and they're like, oh, I needed to 2.5 hours because that was my directorial vision. It's like, bro, your movie did not need to be that long. Luckily, Renfield is not a long movie, so I really like that. Comedy should not be long movies. I also really liked Nicholas Hoult in this movie. He has a sort of grungy long hair look. You know, funny story, Nicholas Hoult was almost cast to play Batman in The Batman last year. So this is a movie, I didn't really see it before, but after seeing Nicholas Hoult in this movie, I think it could have worked. The same sort of brooding Nirvana 90s type of thing. He has that energy in this, but he's also a really positive and chipper guy at the heart of it. So I really like the Renfield character, but if Nicolas Cage as Count Dracula is the reason why you're buying a ticket, well, you won't be disappointed because Nicolas Cage is here, he's playing Count Dracula, he's Caging it up, or Nicholson it up. He's very much a Nicolas Cage take on Dracula, which is actually really good. He's probably one of my favorite Dracula actors. I wouldn't want him to be a horror, a direct horror Dracula, but for a comedy movie about his assistant, Nicolas Cage is your guy. So, I mean, he was just brilliant as Dracula, and the makeup was also really good on him because, the teeth, especially the teeth, that's what I noticed the most because I read an article that said they were actually a practical effect. So that, hats off to the costuming team and the makeup team. Hats off. Everything about Dracula was dope. He lives in the basement of a hotel. It's a very gothic-looking hotel. Nicholas Hoult as Renfield, just all that worked together really well. It's also kind of like a superhero movie in that regard because he eats the bugs and he gets the powers of Dracula in order to do Dracula's bidding. So there are some action scenes in here, very violent action scenes. I will say that. This is a gory movie. Gore is not particularly to my liking, and this, I don't know, it didn't hit my limit, but there was a time where I was like, oh snap, that dude's head, just he crushed it with his foot. I mean, they had a very healthy gore and blood budget is what I'm saying, because it went everywhere. Literally everywhere. Everywhere except for them, because they walk out of these scenes where they massacre people. 30 people, 100 people probably die in this movie killed by Renfield's bare hands. And every single time he does it, he walks away just looking pristine. But overall, I really enjoyed the idea of the assistant to the big bad. He joins a support group for abusive relationships and then he stands up to his Count Dracula boss and he's like, I believe in myself. That's such a great idea. And every time the movie focused on that, it was great. But there's a second half of this movie with Awkwafina in it and she plays a police officer tracking down the mob. I don't find Awkwafina particularly funny. She wasn't very funny in Shang-Chi or Raya and the Last Dragon, and she's not particularly funny in Renfield. And her subplot with the mob and she lost her father to the mob and she has a sister in the police force. It's that's cool. It's great that it's great that you're developing this character, but also it is not very funny and it's just not what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Renfield and Dracula, and when the movie showed them, it was cool. And when the movie showed Awkwafina and the cops, it was ew. Especially with the way they were shot, because all the stuff with Dracula, the hotel, it's very symmetrical, it's very lit darkly, but not to the point where you can't see it, because you definitely can see it because I saw some things. But just even the framing and the very vibe of them, Count Dracula is very foreboding and he's very tall and he's very dramatic and he has a flair to him. And then you cut to the police officers, and it looks like a scene from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's like two very different styles to this. I also don't think the movie was like particularly like super funny. Like there were definitely a few chuckles that I had, and there was one scene that I thought was really funny, but I can't remember it or care to remember or whatever it is. But they were solid laughs. I don't know. At the end of the day, Renfield, there was a lot of good stuff in it, and I really like how it was shot. Chris McKay, he made the Lego Batman movie, The Tomorrow War. Even if the movies aren't great, I always admire the movies that he makes. Some movies you see because you're like fans of like the director, you're like, oh, Christopher Nolan's making an Oppenheimer movie, oh, we're gonna go see that. Other times it's like you're a fan of the brand, it's like, oh, Barbie or Guardians Volume 3. Renfield is the type of movie where you go and you watch it, and like if you like seeing Nicholas Hoult in things, you'll like seeing Nicholas Hoult here. And if you like seeing Nicolas Cage in things, you'll like Nicolas Cage here. And if you like seeing Awkwafina in things, well, I don't know what's up with you, but kudos, I guess. But Awkwafina's in here too, and she's doing her thing. And whenever the movie comes out on DVD, you know, there's going to be a YouTube compilation of Renfield, all Nicolas Cage Dracula bits. And you should probably watch that. But then again, the movie's only an hour and a half, so it's kind of like a mixed bag for me, because on one hand, there's a really good theme in here about like abuse and relationships and how to properly manage and like see the best in yourself. And I'm sure that will hit home for a lot of people. But maybe it could have like hit harder with those scenes, or it could have been more funny or more emotional or less violence. I'd say might have been a good thing for this movie. It's like Zack Snyder's Justice League, where Wonder Woman totally killed all those people and then talks to the child and she's like, you can be anything you want to. It's like, wow, there's a lot of corpses on the ground for us to be having this heart-to-heart right now. There's a lot of moments like that in Renfield, where it's like the violence and the comedy, I don't know, sometimes they work together, sometimes they don't. Overall, I'm not a big fan of gore though, so I might be biased. But yeah, overall, I really liked some things of Renfield, specifically Renfield and Count Dracula, and I really like the New Orleans setting because it was just a very, I don't know, it's a very gothic atmosphere, but it's also like a very lively atmosphere, especially during the day. Overall, I wish it was better. Like, there's nothing specifically I'd point to where I was like, that is where this movie went wrong. Overall, it's just like, it's just fine. And then I wish it was more than fine. I will say there was a scene like where they kind of homage the old Dracula movies and this in like 4:3 and black and white, and you have all the spooky lighting and stuff. But if we could have like a vintage horror movie where it's 4:3 and black and white and Nicolas Cage plays Dracula and Nicholas Hoult plays Renfield, and it's just like the origin story of them, shot black and white, 4:3. I would love to see that. Like an old-timey horror movie released nowadays, because it looked great in the 10 seconds it was in this movie, like the little flashback they had. I would love that. But as it stands, what we got is, it's likable. It's likable, but it's probably less than it should be. Overall, I'm going to give Renfield a 6 out of 10. Against the wishes of its title character, Renfield is only as great as Count Dracula is. This movie would actually make a really good video game. Like, you have a little flashback and the little cutscene with the old stuff, and then you have there are levels in this movie where like he takes down some drug dealers, and then he takes down some people in a restaurant, and then it just keeps escalating into this hotel and then into the mob hideout. That's actually like 4 levels to a video game. So Renfield video game adaptation, sign me up. Also, Renfield old movie adaptation, sign me up. Renfield as it stands, I mean, I did watch it, so I guess sign me up.